Live from Thornbury Creek at Oneida, this is Locker Room with Local 5 Sports Director Bert Griffin. Now your host, Bert Griffin.
Another slow start put the Packers in a big-time hole, and it was too little, too late against their Viking rivals. Now, one final regular season game remains as Green Bay gets ready to make a push in the postseason. Get ready for another edition of Locker Room. Good evening and welcome to another edition of Locker Room right here at Thornbury Creek at Oneida. Well, exactly 1 week ago, the Packers punched their ticket to the playoffs with that 34-0 beatdown of the Saints. And even though things didn't go very well over there in Minnesota, Green Bay's guaranteed to be at least the either 6th or 7th seed in the NFC playoffs. We'll talk more about that with Packers beat writer Ryan Wood in just a moment. But first, please welcome the co-host of my show, or his show. We'll figure it out afterward, right? Three-time Super Bowl champ, former Packer running back, and coach with the green and gold, Harry Sydney, everyone. How you doing, bud?
Hello there. I'm doing, man. How you doing?
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Christmas is in the books. We got New Year's coming up, and that's why we're doing this show. And look, they've got 1 week to go. Not a lot's going to change. We could sit here and break down all the scenarios. If they win and Washington wins, they're the 7th seed, and they will go to Philadelphia. If the Lions, well, look, let's forget about the Lions and Vikings.
A lot of ifs, yes.
Forget about those guys for now. It could be a situation where the Rams could be at the 3 seed. If they jump and get to the 6,
yes,
they go to L.A. Most likely, though, right now, they're probably going to go to Philly.
Most likely they're going to Philly. And if you look at what they've done this season, when they've come to those games like we saw this past week, they had to decide, the game can't be too big for them.
Right.
And
was it?
It seemed like when you look in the eyes of some of the players, it's like they were surprised. They're good enough to play with these guys. They just have to do it on the field. You look at Love, the quarterback. You just had to hang. But on the sideline, you looked and you go, hey, man, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, there wasn't the same look.
Well, year after year, if we broke down the Packers' schedule,
yes,
before the season and after, injuries always play a role. We get that. But there always seems to be one clunker where you're like, how did they lose to them? Remember when they beat Kansas City and they beat Detroit and then they lose to the Giants in Tampa Bay? You're like, whoa, they still rallied, made it to the playoffs, upset Dallas on the road. They had San Fran on the ropes with a chance to go to the NFC
no
title
question
game.
about it.
This year, they've taken care of business against everybody who's not that good, and they just can't, they can't beat the really good teams. 5 losses, Harry, by a combined 22 points.
Well, when that happens, first thing you look at is it about physicality?
Right.
No, because if you look on the defense side, they're very physical, but then you come to the keys of football about pass rush.
Mm-hmm.
Turnovers.
Yeah.
Mistakes. Unforced mistakes, too many errors in the game at the wrong time.
Right.
You got a field goal that's missed, but then there's a penalty. Just 12 minutes in the huddle, a lot of different things like that. You can't do things like that against real good teams.
Right. Well, and I think if you look at the numbers in the first half of the games they've lost, especially the 4 NFC North games against the Vikings and Lions, they've been outscored 75-20. You cannot dig yourself that big of a hole and expect to just make it all up at the very end.
No, you can't, because in games like that, you have to be more willing to make adjustments.
Yep.
You got to be more willing, and it's so crazy now. Back in my days, in the old days, there was no things on the sideline that you can film, and now you get on the computer and you can tell. So you have the ability to make adjustments. They thought Minnesota was going to do some things defensively, didn't, and they did, and it took them a while. And in games like that, you can't take a while to figure out next step.
And as well as anybody, sometimes you can get outcoached in the first half, and you can outcoach another team in the second half and make that a comeback victory. That has just not been the case so far when it comes to those big games. You know what time it is, right?
It's that time.
It's time now for our pivotal performance powered by local IBEW 158. Over the past 3 weeks, since returning from an injury, Edgerrin Cooper has been on a tear. After his 11 tackles, with 4 of those for a loss against the Vikings on Sunday, he now has 28 tackles in just 3 games. There's a learning curve for the rookies, but Edgerrin Cooper, our pivotal performer, powered by local IBEW 158. This dude's got some game.
Now we've had this conversation before a couple of while ago. What you see in this young guy, and he's young, but every play he makes is an impact play.
Yeah.
It's an impact play. He's in the right place. You see him at times all of a sudden shoot the gap. And you go, how come you shot that gap when you see other guys go around? He just knows, when you talk about those guys that have that feel of the game, he's one of the guys that I see that has an incredible feel to the game.
Aggressive mistakes are not always a bad thing. Every coach will tell you that. You'll accept a couple of those because the reward on the other end is usually huge.
Because you know what you're saying as a coach on the sideline, I've been there, you say, man, you see him try to hit that dude?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you want.
It's like when Brett Favre makes a throw back and then you're like, no,
don't do
oh,
it.
Yeah, good job, dude.
Yes.
All right, when we come back, we'll have our special guest tonight. Packers beat reporter Ryan Wood is in the house. He'll help us break it all down. Coming up after the break. Welcome back to Thornberry Creek at Oneida. Got a little young Packers fan there enjoying the holiday. Please give a warm welcome to Packers beat writer extraordinaire Ryan Wood. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, Happy New Year.
Good to see
How
you.
you doing, man? Nice to see you, bud. Nice to see you.
That's right. We're doing this show as a celebration before 2025 gets here, and when it does, Ryan, first question, how do you feel about this team? Harry and I have talked a little bit about it. They're really good. You don't win 11 games in this league without being a pretty darn good football team. However, they haven't beaten any of the teams at the top, and they've got 5 losses to all 3 squads in the NFC that are likely to be the 1, 2, and 5 seed, which that probably should be 1, 2, and 3, but whatever.
They are really good. Tell me, though, how many really good teams win a Super Bowl? How many really good teams get to a Super Bowl? You got to be a great team to make a playoff run, which is what this season and every season with Jordan Love's going to be about. And if you're a great team, you can go into Minnesota and make the winning plays to come out with a victory. You can go into Detroit. You can win these close games on the road against other really good, maybe great teams, and we haven't seen that yet. It doesn't mean that we won't see it. I mean, the Packers have everything in front of them to prove us wrong, right, and to prove that they are a great team. Nobody had them in the wild card round last year going into Dallas and winning. And what were they up, like 70-0 before the Cowboys even had any points on the board? So they can prove it. They just haven't proved it yet, and that's going to be a hurdle to get over in January.
So when not a great team, what's stopping them from being a great team?
You hate to use youth, but that's probably something. It's execution, and young teams often are sloppy when it comes to execution. Young quarterback. Look at yesterday. Matt LaFleur said after the game they were surprised at how much man coverage they played, the Vikings secondary. What the Vikings were doing defensively was daring Jordan Love to be ruthlessly efficient and hitting those 6, 7, 8-yard passes. They were going to give him that all day. And if the way to change it, the way to get more verticality in the passing game is you got to hit those with authority, and you got to throw them out of it. They never did.
Yeah.
He couldn't hit it efficiently enough to throw the Vikings defense out of that type of defensive look. That's what you got to do. You got to make the plays that forces the defense's hand, and they never quite got there.
Yeah, and it's the little things, guys, right? Penalties, especially pre-snap. You can't have that. Josh Jacobs' fumble didn't lead to any points, but if you get momentum moving down the field and then you cough it up, that's not ideal. And they're a team right now that seems they need that one big signature win, and they just haven't gotten that. I mean, you could say the Rams, but they're the only other playoff team, and they didn't have Puka Nacua or Cooper Kupp back then.
There's that. There's also when I look at the Packers, I see a team. We know the running game is. We know who he is. But when it comes to the receiving core, you got to have guys that you can put in certain roles there. And when Watson's out, he's a big play guy. Now everybody else is put into different roles.
Well, let me ask you this, Ryan, because that was going to kind of be where we were going to go with. I was going to go with this. Christian Watson at wide receiver and Jair Alexander. We all know football is the ultimate team game. You need 11 dudes on defense and 11 guys on offense, and actually a lot more than that, probably 15 to 20. But those two guys are difference makers, and the scope of what they can do on both sides of the football changes, right?
With that said, look at the Detroit Lions. How many guys, they lose Aiden Hutchinson, and they just keep motoring through. That's what great teams can do, because attrition's a very real thing in this league. You're not always going to have all your guys. I mean, I was surprised at how much not having Christian Watson changed the offense. There was no threat of a deep passing game without Christian Watson. The other thing, though, let me throw out this thought, because I've been mulling on this ever since Sunday in Minnesota. It sounds crazy, but in a way, they're almost too reliant on Josh Jacobs in that running game because it's a really good thing to have, and nobody's going to say, hey, Josh Jacobs, get fewer yards. Like, you want to maximize your best players, but it is still a passing league. You still have to make explosive plays in the passing game. When your identity is power run, that's a great thing, especially in January. But now your receivers, what are they always thinking? First thing off, you got to block. They're very in tune with block. No, you want them to be downfield, making plays, running their routes, creating separation, giving good targets to Jordan Love. You're not seeing that a lot. There has to be a marriage between this power run identity that they have with an ability to still make explosive plays, as Sam Darnold did. He completed to 4 different targets a 20-yard pass. Yeah. Jordan Love had 1. And midway through the fourth quarter, he's averaging 3.55 yards per pass. That's not explosive.
Yeah, and go ahead, Harry, but you're right. There was 3.5 quarters where they didn't do anything. I mean, he was barely over 50% passing and under 100 yards.
Well, the thing that you said with the strong running game is so true, but the key is you don't see Green Bay do a lot of play action.
Yeah.
Often, what's the biggest thing? You get the linebacker sub up, and you find different receivers get crossing in the zones in the middle in different places like that. And that's what that strong running game does. But you see more side to side and counter trade than, okay, let's fake the hard run and let the tight end work the middle of the field, things like that.
And in Minnesota, we didn't even see a lot of the side to side. I mean, we didn't see a lot of jet motion, which I understand. This Vikings defense can run, it can tackle. It is a very explosive, athletic defense, and that horizontal run game might not get much. But what is that really, that jet motion stuff? Mm-hmm. That is window dressing. It is designed to confuse and disguise what you're doing to the defense. When you don't have any of that, I mean, you want to talk about play action game, that stuff's important pre-snap, and we didn't see that a lot.
Yeah. And it's also good to identify exactly what that defense is doing. What kind of man are they in and what kind of zone are they in? Because they could bracket and go half and half.
Well, see, that's the difference. When we talk about the good teams, they don't let the defense dictate. They dictate. Right now, Packers right now are still trying to figure out who they are. And so because of that, when you play against a team that knows who they are.
Yep. All right, when we come back, we'll have plenty more with Packers beat writer Ryan Wood, Harry Sidney. You're watching Locker Room. We're going to go in the zone with Cameron is there. But first, time now for our Easy Tab Fan Cam. See you after the break. Welcome back to the Locker Room. Happy holidays from our crew. Right here at Thornberry Creek at Oneida. He's Packers beat writer Ryan Wood. We've talked a lot about what they did against Minnesota, so let's look forward. First question, Ryan. Do you really want to be the 6th seed, 7th seed? Does it matter? And since Washington and Dallas are going to be playing side by side, you can scoreboard watch all day. However, would you rather sit your guys, give them a little extra rest, and let the chips fall where they may? You got Philly, LA Rams, and there's a long shot for the other couple.
It'd be a lot easier for me to say, rest your guys if there's nothing to play for Week 18, had I not just seen whatever that was in Minnesota.
Right.
But after that, if I'm Matt LaFleur, I want to get these guys on the field and try to iron these kinks out before the real, your season's on the line.
Okay.
The playoff starts. So I wouldn't be there right now. Look, is there a difference between a 6th or 7th seed? I'm not going to lie and pretend that going to L.A. potentially is not easier than going to Philadelphia. But with this concussion that Jalen Hurts is in, and if you subscribe to the theory that at some point you got to go through Philadelphia to get to the Super Bowl, and that's the goal, would you rather have Jalen Hurts in the wild card round without maybe potentially playing a couple weeks? There's going to be some rust there. You want him later in the playoffs when he's knocked off that rust.
Right.
So it's an easier path to avoid Philadelphia, but if you got to go to Philly anyway, I might argue that it's easier to get him early.
Yeah. Well, especially this week, Philadelphia with the running back, having the opportunity to break Barkley to break the record in New York where they traded him from.
You think he's going to enjoy that?
Yeah.
Just might, so Philadelphia, for one half, they're going to play pretty good. That's how long it's going to take.
Yeah, they got a really good defense. They've got Saquon Barkley, Mr. 2,000 rushing yards. So
getting ready to rewrite it.
It's a tough team anyway, but it is also a quarterback league. And if you can get a shaky, rusty quarterback coming off a concussion, that can be advantageous.
All right, every week we go in the zone, which means we head into the locker room. And here's this week's edition with Cameron is there, presented by Thornberry Creek and Oneida Nation.
Well, there's no doubt at this point of the season, the Packers, they have to always be in the zone. Of course, with the playoffs just around the corner. Well, Minneapolis on Sunday, they were far from it, scoring just 3 first-half points, trailing 27-10 at one point. Now, with that in the back of Green Bay's mind, these players know that there's plenty to clean up with the regular season finale looming large.
We got to take it upon ourselves to change that narrative. We can't just sit up here and talk about, oh, well, you know, we don't want to go. Like, we already went through this feeling. So either we change it or we don't. And if we don't, it's not going to be good for us. So we got to take initiative. You know, we got to be better.
We got to look at the film, correct a few things, and just go from there and, you know, play ball. It's like I said earlier, you know, you can't drown on these things so bad. You just got to focus on the next game.
I think it starts at practice. I think it starts with, you know, Monday coming in and watching film, you know, coming in to work and just being intentional and very direct with everything that we do. I think that's the biggest thing for us, just the little things, just, the details and the little things is the thing that's going to take us over the hump.
Along with emphasizing the need for this team to fix a slew of things come practice time, Packers running back Josh Jacobs also provided some cryptic analysis after the game, saying that his team learned a whole lot about itself. To what that exactly means, he did not want to clarify to give anything away. We'll see if it comes to fruition against the Bears next week. But for now, here at Lambeau Field, I'm Cameron Ezair.
All righty, thank you, Cam. All right, let's talk about the Bears. How bad are they? Look, they were 4-2, but they really didn't beat anyone. The Rams were in that group. I mean, Tennessee, Indy, Jacksonville. They didn't have, like we said earlier, their 2 best wide receivers early in the season. Now they've lost 10 straight games. They're at the bottom of almost every category on both sides of the football. They're a train wreck right now, aren't they?
They started 4-2, and I'm going to be honest. I'm going to come clean right now.
Okay.
Before the season, I was dumb, and I had a moment of weakness. I had the Bears as a wild card team because I'm thinking, first, Caleb Williams is, in fact, really, really good.
He's
It's an abomination what's going on in Chicago around this young quarterback. But what you've seen since 4-2 is that the Bears have done the exact opposite the Packers did last year with a first-year starting quarterback. Yeah. The Packers, 2023, Jordan Love, they ascended throughout the season. The Bears are a meteorite. They just crashed and burned. Yeah. And they've got a lot of problems, and it's the Bears, so you don't really have any confidence in this offseason they're going to clean any of that up because they usually get it wrong. But they've got to because they've got the quarterback. You just got to do everything else now.
Well, and it started with that Hail Mary in Washington. They've been awful since.
There's that, but for the Bears, a change it's not going to change on the football field till it changes in the office, till it changes in the meeting room, till it changes in places right there, because their whole mindset is that of the Bears, and until they change, and they have nowhere to go but up because it's horrible over there.
Ryan, have you even looked this up? Has there ever been a division in the NFL where 3 teams had 12 or more wins? I don't think so. I don't think so.
I'm fairly confident not, because
12 years ago was the last time the NFC North had 3 teams with 10 or more. But to have 12 or more and maybe 1 or 2 teams being 14-3 and 15-2,
well, what was the stat midway through the season when all 3 had like 9 wins in their first 11 games or so? It was the first time since the merger that had happened, and they haven't. Those 3 teams haven't really stopped winning since. So I know this is. You can make a very strong argument that the NFC North in 2024 is the strongest division you've ever seen in the history of the league.
All right, when we come back, it's time to wrap up the show. We'll have our keys to the game. He's Ryan Wood, Packers beat writer and 3-time Super Bowl champ Harry Sidney. Happy holidays from everyone here at Locker Room.
Here in Green Bay.
Welcome back to Thornberry Creek and Ida for another edition of Locker Room. It is time now for our keys to the game, brought to you by the Dispensary. If you're a coach on the Packers roster, I'm sure you're thinking, and especially as fans, stay healthy. Bottom line, even if you go out and whip up on the Bears, come out of it injury-free, give some guys some needed rest if they get it. And to do that, pressure Caleb Williams. The guy's not been very good, most sacked quarterback in the NFL, flashes of talent. Very good, good player. However, if you get after him, he's going to make some mistakes. And then to do that, let's shorten the game. It's still going to be cold. It'll be under 33 degrees. It'll be 20 or whatever. Run the football. Establish it first, right?
Be the better team.
Okay.
Just be the better team. And then we talked about earlier different ways to do that.
12 wins would be pretty amazing, and especially if they're the 7th seed.
I think it's all about how they win and generating momentum. With the pass rush, it's been better the last month. They need to carry that into the postseason. With their passing game, I get it. Run the ball, absolutely cold, Lambeau Field. They need to establish some explosive passing game.
Packers beat writer Ryan Wood, appreciate you stopping by. For Harry Sidney, I'm Bert Griffin. Thanks
Oh,
for tuning
man,
in to
my
Locker
head.
Room. We'll see you next week.